Welcome back to the channel and let's talk about Manuel Ugarte because there's this speculation, this rumour, this agenda surfacing, especially around internet Manchester United fans, and there's a growing narrative that Manuel Ugarte is a poor player for Manchester United. Now, before I actually started recording this video, I did a little poll on my YouTube and I think it got about 9 or 10 votes, and so far the leading race was that Manuel Ugarte has been a great signing, but some do think he's poor, and I kind of want to put these rumours or this narrative to bed because I really don't understand why so many fans don't like Manuel Ugarte. So in this video, I'm going to be defending him. I'm practically going to be his own lawyer as a football fan, and I'm actually going to discuss about Manuel Ugarte and why I think he's much more important to Manchester United than certain fans are giving him credit for. But before we get into today's video, make sure you leave a like on the video, subscribe if you are new, and if you don't agree with me or if you do agree with me, comment down below your opinions on Manuel Ugarte. So first of all, let's actually rewind to how we got Manuel Ugarte at Manchester United. We signed him for £50 million from PSG, and yes, at PSG he was a very decent upcoming midfielder. Obviously, they signed him from Sporting Lisbon, and then 1 year later on, he joins Manchester United. Now, the fact that Manchester United signed him for £50 million, which was what PSG bought him for Sporting Lisbon, was probably a great bit of business on PSG's behalf. And you look at what they've gone and done this season in the Champions League. They've got probably one of the best teams in all of Europe. They play tonight in the Champions League as well against Aston Villa. So it will be a very entertaining game on their behalf. But to give PSG their credit, they're an amazing team and an exciting, hungry young squad, and you know, obviously you could say since they've sold Manuel Ugarte, they've probably got a lot better. However, Manuel Ugarte for me has made Manchester United much better because last season I think fans kind of forget how dreadful our midfield was. I mean, you had Bruno Fernandes and Scott McTominay and even Kobbie Mainoo as well, probably our best midfielders in the league. And then you had the likes of Casemiro, you had the likes of Eriksen. Who else did we have? We have Amrabat as well. Bloody hell, I forgot about Amrabat. So them options that we had really stunk up the gaff. Now, Casemiro this season sort of resurged himself a little bit, looking a bit like the Casemiro of old in certain periods, but he's not a player that we should be relying on. He's not the player for the future. Amrabat was only on loan. Scott McTominay, we sold him to Napoli. Bruno Fernandes, probably the only player who can keep his head held high as a Manchester United player this season. He's been absolutely amazing for us. He's bailed us out on so many occasions. I mean, Kobbie Mainoo, a player who had an amazing breaking through season last season, but has practically been injured all of this season, hasn't had that growth and that progression under Erik ten Hag or Ruben Amorim since he's took over as Manchester United manager. But this is where I'm talking about this agenda with Manuel Ugarte, because certain fans just think that he's not cut out for Manchester United, and they claim that he's lazy. Now, that's the first narrative I want to speak about, and right now I'll put the heat map of his season heat map on the screen now. And as you can see, he dominates that centre of midfield. You can see obviously the red bits and the yellow bits. The darker the colour, the more area he's around. That area is where he owns it, and I don't understand how you can look at that heat map and say that Manuel Ugarte is not a midfielder that puts himself everywhere. It's not like it's just one red dot in the centre of the park. You've got practically covering the entirety of the back line of our defence, and then you've got bits in the middle where we're progressing up the field, and you've got quite a few high portions of red dots towards the left-hand side of the midfield, which is normally where he plays, where in the double pivot, he'll play on the left-hand side and Bruno Fernandes or Casemiro or Eriksen will play on the right-hand side, normally. Unless you have a centre-back pushing next to Ugarte, which for me just isn't working at the moment. And I think that's something Ruben Amorim needs to sort out in his own time, or as he gets more time at Manchester United. But obviously, the most recent game, 4-1 loss to Newcastle. For me, Manuel Ugarte was our man of the match. He was the only player that put himself everywhere. And you know what? I'll even put that heat map on, because if you look at everyone else's heat maps, because for me, obviously, heat maps is very important for positioning and judging a player's energy and output throughout a game. where stats can be very misinterpreted at times when it comes to, this player may have got 100% pass accuracy, but made 6 passes in the game. Like, Scott McTominay was brilliant at that, and that's no dig at Scott McTominay, but Scott McTominay on the ball was very weak and was much better. He's like a wrecking ball, wasn't he? He was much better making them runs into the box and scoring goals for fun. I mean, I think he scored a brace in last night's game for Napoli. Like, obviously, Italian football is making Scott McTominay look like an absolute superstar. But obviously, we'll ignore heat maps for now, and I want to look at his overall average rating. And since Manuel Ugarte has joined Manchester United, he has got an average rating of 6.81. Now, that's average, okay? But it's higher average and just below good compared to low or poor, which a lot of fans claim to be. And for me, Manuel Ugarte's main strengths are obviously tackling. I think it's positioning. And you know what? He has got a very good long ball on him. Now, the short tiki-taka passes, you could say he struggles with the link-up play. And some players, like, obviously, in that Newcastle game, will target that, especially when Ugarte hasn't got a strong midfield partner. Because the key thing about this Ruben Amorim system is that the wing-backs are vital for creating out wide. However, we play out from the back. So normally you'll have the goalkeeper pass to the centre-backs and the centre-backs pass it into midfield. And then the midfield will pass it out to the wingers or the wing-backs or to the higher players in midfield. Now, on Sunday against Newcastle, where we got absolutely bent over and slapped on both cheeks, what happened was that Ugarte was by himself. Eriksen was useless, and Roy Keane I don't normally agree with because I think he's very harsh and unfair on United at the moment, especially in his punditry work and especially on the overlap where he has his little outbursts. However, I thought he was spot on at the weekend when he was talking about Manchester United, and he was saying, why are Manchester United still relying on players like Eriksen, Lindelof, Casemiro to dig him out and progress, and even Luke Shaw as well he mentioned. Why are we still relying on these players that should have been gone ages ago to dig Manchester United out of a hole? And, you know, I'm not being funny, they're digging us further into a hole, they're making the hole deeper. And for me, these are the players that's why we're struggling so much. Because when we do get an injury crisis, when you do have the likes of Kobbie Mainoo out injured, or now Joshua Zirkzee out injured, we've now got players that we have to rely on who aren't good enough. Eriksen, he was a brilliant midfielder in his day, but he's past it. Lindelof has been here for 8 years. That is bonkers. You've got Casemiro, one of the world's best, but since that first season at Manchester United, the age has caught up with him, and you can tell that with his speed and the time he needs on the ball. That's why I think he looks so good in the Europa League, because you've got these international teams that will give him more time. But like I said, this is where the important comes to Manuel Ugarte, because Man United's midfield this season has had over 6 different versions. Okay? 6. Manuel Ugarte has been a part of 5 partnerships this season. You've got him with Kobbie Mainoo, Casemiro, Eriksen, Bruno, I've already said, and who else? And who else is it? And Collier as well, sorry. I'm trying to find the stat. Yeah, Collier as well. So you look at that, and he's had to play with multiple different players in certain periods of the season. Now, I'm not being funny, but it's also his first season in the league. And going back to his strengths, as I was talking about before, I don't think he has any major flaws. Genuinely. He has flaws like every other player does. Bruno with his petulance, Højlund with his goal scoring ability, which is his fucking job, by the way. You know, Andre Onana with claiming crosses or commanding his area. Like, Onana's a decent shot stopper at times, but his decision making, his command of his area is very poor at. Every player at Manchester United has the flaws. Now, so does every other player in every other world-class team, but they just hide it better. They know how to make their strengths shine. And that's where I feel like Ugarte's struggled this season, because with how fast the Premier League is, his judgment, I think, has took some getting used to, and he's become much better as the season's gone on. But going back to this Newcastle game, a lot had happened in that Newcastle game. That first half, Diogo Dalot was on the ball, slips, and Tiro Livramento stole the ball off him and ran past him like he wasn't even there. Ugarte cuts across him, and Livramento takes a heavy touch, and Ugarte, while mid-slide tackle, takes out Livramento and gets a yellow card from it. Now, when your main trait, like I've said, is tackling, and you're on a yellow card from the first half, that takes out a massive portion of your game. Because Ugarte is our bruiser in midfield. He's the player who can make the difference. He loves to smash into people. He doesn't give a shit. And that's what I love about him. He's that character that United have missed for such a long time. And you know what? This might sound a bit cliche, but if we had signed Ugarte probably a year before we did Casemiro under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, like obviously if he was the age of profile he was at now, I generally think United could have had one of the best midfielders in the world, because Ugarte, Pogba and Bruno Fernandes, that would have been an insane midfield three if we could have got it going. But obviously you can't keep looking back at the past, you've just got to look forward. And looking forward, Ugarte for me has been a successful signing so far. He's been decent, like I've said. I really back him as one of the first players on the team sheet. And when he doesn't play, you can tell. And a lot of fans who have criticised him in recent times, it was, I believe, in around January or late January or early February time, he got injured, if you remember. And he was out for a handful of games. And in that period of time, we saw the difference. We saw a massive difference and we were like, oh my God, we need Ugarte in this game. So I feel like that because this season's been so depressing and so frustrating as Manchester United fans, it's almost come to a point where we're attacking players and Ruben Amorim as well for either the sake of it or just because another thing's gone wrong. Now, I'll admit, like I've said, this season has been utter shambles. It's been depressing. It's been frustrating. We've had 3 different managers this season. We've had Ten Hag, you've had Ruben Van Nistelrooy, and now Ruben Amorim. It's been such a poor season. However, at the same time, there are way worse players at this club who either don't contribute much or who are past it or aren't Manchester United quality. They're the players we should be exiting out first, not your Mainus, your Ugartes, your Garnachos, your Brunos, your Lenny Yoros, your Mazrawis. You need to be identifying the problem. And you need to look at players who don't make that impact. And I'm sorry, I'm taking no for an answer. I'm not taking no for an answer. Ugarte has not been a bad signing at Manchester United, in my opinion. Now, I just need to put my glasses on for this because I've lost where I was. But as it stands with Manuel Ugarte, obviously, if you want to look at stats, I'll get them up now for us. And in the Premier League, or actually, no, we'll just do his full season. He's played 37 times for Manchester United this season. He's average 6.82, which is what I said before. And he's played a total of 2,430 minutes and only got 1 goal and 2 assists. Now, at the end of the day, obviously, them stats aren't great. However, you look at it, and I'll get up his passing stats now. And with this passing stat, why is it saying this now? That was against Newcastle on second. I'm not sure why that's there. But looking at... Is that right? Against Newcastle? It must be, yeah. Yeah, so if this is against Newcastle, Manuel Ugarte, because that's the only one that I can get up at the moment, he made 26.9 accurate passes, let's just call it 27, with 88% being successful. And it's his crossing ability, it's his chip passes, his long balls, which he doesn't do enough of. But that's because Man United shouldn't be playing like a long ball team. But like I said, for me, his distribution, obviously, it isn't of the levels of a Kimmich or a Rodri. Or even if you want to talk about more attacking players like Bruno Fernandes or Eriksen. Like Eriksen, who's known for his ball playing ability, was shite on Sunday against Newcastle. And every other game he's played this season, in my opinion, apart from that game against Barnsley, where he really stood out when we won 7-0. But again, I could score against Barnsley. It's not hard. However, with Ugarte, like I said, is that for me his main strength is his tackling and aggression, and with his interceptions as well, that he's also very strong at. Like, I'll even, you know what, I'll get the stat up now actually, because it's here in front of me. That he averages, listen to this, 5.1 tackles per game. Okay. Now, let's average. Let me quickly type in Bruno Fernandes. Actually, no. Let's say type in Casemiro then. Casemiro. Okay. Casemiro. Let's find it. There it is. Casemiro averages 2.8 tackles per game. All right. So that's your other holding midfielder. Kobbie Mainoo, not had enough games to average that. Bruno Fernandes isn't that type of player, and neither is Eriksen, or neither is Toby Collier as well. So once you understand what I'm trying to say about Manuel Ugarte, is that he's our only type of defensive midfielder in that natural role when it comes to aggression, tackling, interceptions. And I generally think that if he could gain confidence and improve on the ball and going forward, he could become an elite midfielder because his tackling and defending duties are already there, in my opinion. Now, like every player in the world, and at Manchester United especially, players need to improve. And for me, I just feel like Ugarte has just been picked out for a completely unknown theory. I think it started from a rumour and people have just jumped on for the sake of it, whether it's to clown him or whether it's to, I don't know, just because they're thick, because a lot of Manchester United fans are thick at times. So, yeah, I just feel like that Ugarte has been a brilliant signing for us, and I've probably repeated myself quite a few times in this video, but I really just don't understand where this agenda's come from. Now, like I've said, if you made it this far into the video, let me know in the comments down below on what your opinions are on Ugarte and what does he do well, what doesn't he do well in your vision. Because, like I've said, it feels like I've watched a complete different player since we've signed him. A lot of fans don't like him, or a lot of fans aren't fond of him. And this is what I mean. If I'm being blind, I really want to understand what he doesn't do well to what I'm currently seeing, because I think he's been top for us, genuinely. And I feel like that once United get more attacking options to play in them two advanced 10 position in this Ruben Amorim system, Bruno Fernandes and Kobbie Mainoo, or Bruno Fernandes Ugarte, or Ugarte and Bruno Fernandes or Mainoo, blah, 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 will have a very strong foundation, and the spine is where we need to improve. From top to the bottom, definitely. We definitely need better players in each and every position. However, right now, Ugarte is definitely not one of them players that needs to be moved on, in my opinion. But anyway, like I've said, thank you for watching in today's video. Leave a like, subscribe if you are new, comment down below your thoughts on Ugarte, and let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.